We're going to have Marie Garlock open us up and explain what's going on here. And thank you all so much for coming out. And here we go.
Good afternoon, good evening. DEQ is setting up down the hall with booths for people to go around, share their truths, and listen to DEQ's plans. And the community came up with the idea to have a booth on the community's own terms about what the truths of living with coal ash are. So our focus today is on the costs of coal ash and on the light that this community shines. And it is a bright light. And so to start, I want to have you turn to a neighbor and say, hey. Make sure you know each other's name. Okay, good. If you're from here, you know, and if you're not from here, you'll learn really quickly that this is a place of friends and of family. And we are just coming off of the Epiphany, which was on Sunday, January 6th. And Caroline will talk more about this, as will Reverend Greg, Reverend Leslie, all our speakers here today. But the Epiphany Star is something that's about walking on faith. And that's another thing that this community surrounding Belews Creek Steam Station does, is they walk on faith and they share their light for the solutions to coal ash. So up here we have a prayer cloth that says, families that are stitched together with love seldom unravel. And nothing could be more true about all of the communities surrounding the Belews Creek Steam Station, from Pine Hall community to Walnut Tree to Walnut Cove to people all around in Stokes and all of the advocates that care about this community's health that is bodily, spiritual, mental, social, and emotional. And those things, those five, physical, social, emotional, mental, spiritual, those are the costs of coal ash. And so we have here, walking on faith, the belief that DEQ will do the right thing, and they will be the wise men and the wise women. And they will bring gifts of accounting for all of the houses, that's the keys, all of the houses that people can no longer live in safely because of coal ash waste and exposure in their water, in their air, in their soil, or that they cannot pass on or sell. That's the cost of coal ash, people not being able to live safely in their homes. The next is we walk on faith that DEQ will honor the cost of coal ash that this community has borne and will rectify those costs of medical bills. All of the different sicknesses from cancers to brain, heart, lung, skin, and birth defects that people are suffering with, often in isolation and silence. And then the next thing we know DEQ will honor as people in this community walk on faith is to bring clean water to all of the people surrounding Belews Creek Steam Station and to not make it worse by doing the quote-unquote hybrid, which is compounding the issues rather than finding even a halfway solution. And the story of Epiphany that guides us today for the press conference is that the shepherds were the first ones to listen to that call. That divine call for justice and love unconditionally. And those are the residents and the workers and the everyday families of the people living around Belews Creek Steam Station. They're the ones who said, who, me? I'm supposed to shine the light? And that's who you're going to hear from today, is people saying, who, me? I'm supposed to shine the light about the solutions for coal ash waste? But they're speaking up nonetheless, and they're walking on faith that the right thing will be done. And when they got to what was beneath that Epiphany Star, they did not go to a palace. God wasn't in a palace. The family was not in a palace. They weren't there with CEOs and other pharaohs. They were there with a family, a mother, like the mothers who worry and hold themselves as feeling guilty that their children were exposed to this coal ash waste when that is not their burden to bear. And like the children who have born with a hole through their back, only living 10 days. And the children who have died of brain tumors in this community, or the children whose grandparents have to homeschool them because they had so much asthma that they could not complete grades 1 and 2. That is who is underneath that Epiphany Star, and they are the ones shining the light. And that is who you will hear from today. And we invite all of the people in DEQ, state regulators, Duke Energy, industry officials, everyone who has a say in their ability to do the right thing, to follow that light, that the people of Belews Creek Steam Station, the whole region surrounding it, to follow that light that they are shining. And we know, and we expect, and we pray that the people of DEQ will be the wise men and the wise women who do the right thing.
On that note, the gym's open. We're all set up. Y'all are welcome to come on in and join us. Thank you.
All right, and we'll do our next, who is David. Thank you so much, David Hairston, Brother David Hairston.
Thank you. My name is David Hairston. I'm the president of the Walnut Tree Community Association and also a board member of Appalachian Voice. I was asked to speak on the impact that coal ash is having on the community. I lived it for almost 42 years, and what I'm seeing is devastating to my heart and to the community that I come from. I want to speak to you on the common sense things that I'm going to talk to DEQ about. Common sense tells you that the human race cannot survive without clean air and water. Common sense is telling us that the coal ash pond is capped with billions of gallons of water right now, and recapping it with billions of pounds of dirt will not be the answer. The only thing that our community wants and thinks that is common sense is to excavate it and store it in a safe place. Right. That is common sense. Common sense would tell you if they really cared about the community that we wouldn't be here today, that once this became an issue, that they would have stepped up and done the right thing. When they run commercials and saying that they are a good neighbor, how many of you neighbors are dumping toxic waste in your yard? Right. How many of your neighbors don't care about your kids' well-being and your parents' well-being? Anybody with common sense can tell you if you live 100 miles away, you can deem this as low risk. But none of those people that are deeming this as low risk will move their family down, bathe their child in that water, bring their mother and father down there and drink this water. It's low risk if you're not at risk. How can you say that if you don't live the life of those people? And I want everybody to look around and see the one thing that's missing. Not one of our elected officials have ever come to a meeting, or not even here today. And I know they know. It's been on the news. It's in the paper. It's all over Facebook. Those are the people that were elected to protect us from this. Common sense tells us they don't need their job next time. If you don't care anything about us, common sense tells us we don't need you representing us. So I'm here to explain to you that the calls I get as an activist and leading this, when a young mother calls me and asks me, is it safe to make her kids baby formula out of the water? Can they bathe their kid in that water? Or a grandmother's calling me and telling me she's afraid to let her grandkids come to her house because they may get sick. What kind of life is that to live? And yet and still, Duke Energy is going to come up with saying they can't afford to do this. But in 2016, their gross earnings was $2.6 billion. That was in 2016. 2017, it was over $3 billion. The estimated cost to clean that coal ash pond up is $4 million. I mean, $40 million. I'm sorry. $40 million. So that's a drop in the bucket. But you got to look at it, though. That's 40 years worth of profit. That's just 2 years worth of profit, what I'm telling you about. But that's 40 years worth of profit of coal ash sitting over there that's killing my people. When I go up and down the road, on the childhood road I lived on, Martin Luther King Drive, it's not a house on either side of the road that I can look at that somebody in there has passed away from cancer or a survivor of cancer or sitting in there on oxygen tanks.
Yes.
These are the things that those people are dealing with over money.
That's right.
I call it poison for profit. So DEQ is an organization or agency that's not nonpartisan, that's supposed to be developed to take care of the people that pay tax, that pay their salary. So I'm just going to ask them to do their job.
Yes. Hi, I'm Caroline Armijo, and this is my friend Danielle Bailey-Lash. and we've been friends for over 30 years now. And this coal ash journey started for me in 2010 when Danielle was first diagnosed with her brain tumor. And this fall, unfortunately, that reoccurred for Danielle. So for me, it was very personal to stay firm and committed to this until all of the ash is excavated from the landfill. We are determined to stay with this regardless of what DEQ decides. But we do have faith that DEQ will make the right decision, that this is an opportunity for them. Like Marie talked about with Epiphany, we know of Epiphany, it occurred this past Sunday at the time when the wise men came to see baby Jesus. But Epiphany is also a great idea that we receive. And we have to be in a place of peace and love in order to receive that. And Danielle has been a wonderful example of someone who is always full of peace and grace. And so she is a wonderful leader in our community because of that. But we can't receive these epiphanies from a place of fear. And Duke's report with the 3 options is filled with fear and trying to scare our community into thinking that the only option is the hybrid solution, which the hybrid solution is absolutely the worst possible thing that could happen to this community. The law clearly states that the ash needs to be excavated if it needs to be 5 feet above the groundwater. Well, at Belews Creek, it is sitting over 60 feet deep into the groundwater. So that is a very clear marker. Also, there can't be any off-site contamination. We are the only site of the 6 remaining sites that has off-site contamination. So both of those make it very easy for DEQ to make this decision. So we are hopeful that we can encourage them to listen to us today and to make the decision to excavate us. And we're also hopeful that Governor Cooper will support this idea. As part of his administration, he ran on a platform of helping the coal ash residents and only won by 10,000 votes at a time when over 1,000 families were living on bottled water. So this is a major issue, and this is the time to have it cleaned up. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mary Curley. I'm a native of Stokes County. And as I look around this room and I see friends, it makes me sad, incredibly sad, that we have to beg for clean water. Think about it, folks. Clean, safe drinking water is a birthright of all people. And we have to beg entities to provide it for this end of Stokes County. There's something really sad in this 21st century that is going on. The birthright of clean water was stolen from citizens of Stokes County by the indifference of a corporate entity to this day that is still indifferent. If that corporate entity will not step up to the plate, then we need DEQ to mandate that the coal ash be moved. There is a stream under the coal ash pond. Capping that pond in place is like putting a lid on a leaky pot. That is not acceptable. I urge everyone in here to speak to the people at DEQ and say, do the right thing. We have been fighting this battle far too long, and it is time for someone to be in our corner.
Good job, Mary.